everybody. Thanks for checking in. It is the Ultimate Tribute Band podcast, and I am Roger. I'm excited to welcome our guest here. And this is one of those fortunate occasions because he's in Southern California and I'm in Southern California. I actually know him through other channels that we got to meet, and then the whole tribute thing happened on his side of things. So I kind of knew him a little bit before the tribute and just as it was all happening for him. So with that, I want to welcome from BillyNationTribute.com. This is Adam Shapiro, who does Billy Joel. Adam, thanks for coming on. And how you doing, buddy?
Roger, doing great. Thanks so much for having me on this great show you've got.
Yeah, no problem, man. I really appreciate you doing it. We're excited to get, season 2 up and running again. And awesome. You're one of the guys I wanted to get off on this schedule real fast so we can get off the ground again for season 2. So,
great.
Talk to me a little bit before we get specifically into Billy Joel and the tribute thing. Talk to me about who you are, your background, anything you want to share with us, musical influences, any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I've been playing. I was born in New York City, grew up in Miami, but I've been playing mostly as a sideman, as just a hired gun keyboard player for a long time. I've done every almost seemingly imaginable genre of music. I've done the country scene in Texas. I've sort of the central and southern Texas country scene. I went to school at the University of Texas, so I lived in Austin for many years, did that. Blues, jazz, corporate, tons of corporate stuff. I can't tell you how many weddings and bar mitzvahs I've played. You name it, from divey bars to opening up for James Brown, which was one of the highlights of my career. Huey Lewis and the News I opened up for as well. So did a lot of that. And
always keys and always
keys. And
okay.
I'm primarily, that's what I do. I've always sang, but not really as a front man. Gotcha. So, every now and then I would, if I was especially in kind of a bar band, I would just sing a song or two, and that's kind of how it all got started for me. But so I've had some amazing musical experiences, played in different countries and everything. It's been a wild ride. So I like to say that I have a diverse set of experiences in music, and also my tastes in music are highly varied. I mean, my father was a jazz pianist, so I have a love for jazz music. I was kind of weird in high school. I was a metalhead on one hand, and on the other hand, I was listening to Chick Corea, who is probably the biggest influence as a piano player in terms of jazz. But in terms of other influences, I mean, on the piano, obviously you got to say Billy Joel is one of them. Bruce Hornsby is another. Just the way that he melodically layers things and his chords. He has a very unique set of playing chords. So love it. So those are some big influences I have, and I've been able to do a lot of different things. It's been great.
Are you trained on any level, or do you play primarily by ear? Do you read?
Yeah, so I read. I'm a very mediocre reader. So I started musical training when I was 9 or 10 years old. And as I mentioned, my father was a professional musician, so I'd always had it around. There'd always be musical instruments around the house from various rehearsals he'd have. So I'd always play. But I took a bunch of lessons when I was young. I quit because I wanted to play rock and roll, and the traditional instruction really at the time wasn't about that. It was,
right.
learning to read. I took lessons at various intervals as I got older, including with a lot of jazz guys, to really up my game in that genre. So, I never have a music. I don't have a music degree or anything like that, though. So,
is music how you made your living growing up, or did you have a regular full time? gig?
Yeah, interesting. No, I was I had I remember making a decision when I was graduating from high school. My father really wanted me to go to Berklee College of Music. And at the time, I didn't think that I wanted that kind of life. So I went and I actually got a PhD.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was and still am a college professor. And I'm trained as a gerontologist, which means I study old people, but my work, and particularly now, focuses on older people and older musicians, particularly looking at how music has the possibility of helping people delay the onset of dementia and cognitive decline.
Oh, interesting.
So I kind of had that career and was the weekend warrior, and now I'm at the point in that life where I'm transitioning to music. I'm kind of doing it. I'm doing it in reverse.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think a lot of folks who do what we do, who have the day gig and this is the side gig. I think everybody who's looking to keep moving forward, they're like, I would love it if at some point this can transition and be the main gig. So it sounds like you're kind of starting to move in that direction.
That's exactly where this is what I want to be doing, and I'm starting to probably spend the majority of my time doing this.
And your patients probably don't mind at all that you're no longer available.
Well, I'm available.
I'm in Ohio on a gig.
Yeah, I can't. Well, that's true. That happens. But so I'm doing it in reverse, and it's great because I've got my kids are a little older, and was able to help them and get them where they are, and now I'm really pursuing my passion. Should I have done it when I was 18 years old? There's a debate about that. Everybody is different. I'm not going to look back and say my decisions were wrong, and so we are where we are, and now I'm pursuing with as much time and passion as I can this music that I've always loved.
I think for what it's worth, and considering we are of a certain generation, I think there's an argument to be made, kind of like, I think older people get more out of college if they went to college later because they had a more clear idea of what they might want to go for. I think when older people decide, okay, I'm going to do music now full time, I think you go into it a little more wide-eyed and a little more clear-eyed is probably a better term. You go in understanding probably I got to focus on the business side. Will this support me? As opposed to I'm living a passion. Also, being a tribute, this isn't about getting your own original music that somebody who's younger is more concerned with. You're approaching this from probably a more business standpoint of I've got a product and this seems to be able to be marketable, and now I think I can work this into my livable income.
Yeah, I'm much more I've lived a little bit. I'm much more realistic about that and how it works, and very attuned to the business side of this. And that's essential if you're going to be, if you really are going to be putting this much time and effort into something and you want it to be successful. I mean, there's no question that it's a business, and that's how I approach it. And so I'm grateful that I have years of living under me to be able to think that way. And I don't think if I were 20 years old, I would have just said, hey, where can I play? I'll take anything, I'll do whatever,
So as a keyboard player, and anybody who's in this industry, any musical industry, knows keyboard players are, golden. You find one and that you're in demand if you're a decent keyboard player. And even if you're not a decent keyboard player, you're probably in demand. So hired gun is always kind of the world of a keyboard player a lot of times, because you have your pick of gigs. And so you'll play with different bands. So were you always kind of, not necessarily bouncing around, but you were always kind of parts of multiple bands? And then is this tribute the first project that you've put together, or did you do any bands that were not tributes necessarily, but that were yours?
Yeah. So I was always playing, I might have had at various times a primary band, and I would do pickups occasionally, just depending how much I was playing. But yeah, I've always, before I did this, I think I was playing maybe sporadically with 6 or 7 different bands.
Yeah.
Projects, some of them are projects, some of them are established bands. So yeah, this is I've started a few other bands before, but not tributes. One was an organ trio. This was years ago. I was just playing a B3 organ, had a bass player and a drummer. I had a 12-piece funk band, not, maybe about 7 years ago or 7 or 8 years ago. But I just decided that if I was going to do this again, I wanted to completely break out of my comfort zone, going from this sort of keyboard player that's sort of in the background and really being not only the band leader, but also being the front man. And that's a completely different experience. Right. From just being the guy who, you've got your charts or whatever you're reading, you're just playing them. So you're able
to kind of hide back there a little bit.
I can't hide. I can't hide at all.
Yeah, you're now all eyes are on you at this point. So okay, so tell me about how that. You obviously decided it was time to go into something that was kind of mine and not this other thing. So did you immediately think I want to do a tribute, or did you kind of bounce around what it might be? Or was it kind of like, no, it's going to be a tribute and it's going to be Billy Joel, or you were thinking about some other things? How did it happen?
Yeah. So I started playing as a sideman in the tribute world. And it really opened my eyes. It's a completely different scene, right? If you're not in, scenes are, depending on where you are, they're very discreet, or some of them blend together. Tribute is a very unique scene, especially in Southern California. And so I became acclimated to it a little bit once I started playing as a sideman. But at that time, I was going through a lot of different things in my life, and I just said I wanted to do something different. And so what I started to do is I started to just do some solo piano and singing, right, to really get that going. Because when I had sang before on occasion with a band here or there, I'd sing a song or 2 songs. And, people would say, well, you got a good voice, you should be doing more of that. And I said, well, let me try, so I really started working on that. But what I found was playing solo is that I missed the band dynamic. Right. It was definitely more pressure, and it was challenging, to get all to be on vocally, but I really missed that, being part of a band and having that interaction. And there's just nothing like it to me. And I still play solo every now and then, the one a Billy solo thing, right. But it's always more fun. And for me, when I've got the guys with me, and then I decided so if I was going to do a band, where I was the front man, what could I pull off? There was 1,000,001 cover bands. And there's just, when I was thinking about tributes, I'm like, which tribute artist do I think I have a good shot of doing well? And there's, as you know, there's not a lot of frontman piano players. They're usually right. Guitar players, right. Straight up singers or whatever. So I didn't have a lot to choose from. But Billy Joel came to mind immediately for a lot of reasons. But one of them is when I would sing with various cover bands, I would often do Only the Good Die Young, which is a hit of Billy's. And people would come up to, I remember people would come up to me and say, you sound a lot like Billy. I said, I'm not trying to sound like Billy, which I said, well, maybe if I work at this a little bit, maybe it's got some legs. So I just decided to go for it. And I think that's kind of how I work. Is like, if there's something I want to do, it's on.
So when was this? Like, what year was this?
So yes, this was in March of 2020. So I called a bunch of friends, a bunch of musician friends, some of the top guys I knew, who I had played with. And I said, hey, here's my idea. What do you think? Let's get together and see if this thing has legs. And we got together, I believe it was March 8th of 2020, a week before the lockdown. Right. We got together at my house, and I was like, wow, I think this thing could work. And then the world changed. And so that was the beginning of our experience.
So you got the concept, and you're lining up personnel, but there's not going to be any gigs.
No,
and
we
so
had nothing.
Well, trust me, I know. I was right there with you.
Yeah.
So did you just kind of say, well, nobody thought it was going to go as long as it did. So did you just kind of figure, well, while we have this kind of downtime, we can really put this whole show together? And so that when we're playing again, we'll start gigging.
100%. And at first, there was, as you are well aware, and we all lived through it, we didn't know what this thing was like. Everybody was scared, and there was who knows what was going on. And then as this thing kind of dragged out a little bit, after the initial kind of shock wore off of the pandemic, we were just like, we've got to do something. We can't play live. So what we started doing is we just started doing a lot of these collaborative recordings, and which was great because it got me into learning a studio production. I hadn't really done it before. And so we did a bunch of collaborative Billy songs, and then we did videos to it. All of this was done during the pandemic while we were at home and quarantined and things like that. One of them I actually did when I had COVID. So I was not feeling well, but I still was doing the video. So on our YouTube channel, we have a bunch of these quarantine collaboration videos that a lot of people were doing. And this was, I tell you what, Roger, this was, at the time I was just, as I'm sure a lot of people were, it's like bored out of my mind being home all the time, but like being devoid musically. Yeah, I played, I did a ton of practicing, but being able to be with a band, you weren't able to do that. And so this was at least something. It was the most creative outlet we had, and we had a lot of fun with it.
That's what really led to this podcast. Is I had a bunch of downtime, and I went, well, I might as well talk to these guys. I mean, none of us are gigging. Luckily, a few of them were like fine being together face to face when nobody was supposed to be face to face or within 6 feet of each other. But luckily, there was a lot of musicians that were like, I've been around way worse.
Yeah.
So I've lived a life that I've got whatever you can get. So we were able to do this. And so it was exciting to try to find something to do. So you guys were basically gearing yourselves up. You were playing, you were refining, you were getting your opportunities to at least get together and put the songs together. And you said that somebody happened to mention you kind of sound like Billy Joel. So did you find yourself kind of going, okay, let me see if I really can, like creating a vocal impersonation of Billy Joel, or are you singing essentially in just your natural singing voice, or are you trying to Billy Joel it up a little bit?
Yeah. So the way that I approach it is to not be an imitator per se, but to sort of channel the spirit of the artist as best I can, and to make you think that you're in a Billy Joel concert. But I don't. I think it's sort of that fine line between pure impersonation and tribute. I mean, everybody has a different way of approaching it. So I think because, I'm from the East Coast, there's something about New Yorkers that has, in terms of the attitude and the mannerisms of Billy that are natural to me, but there are also, I've really studied him as well. So especially as we've matured as a band, and as I've really gotten much more confident in what we do, I really studied him and tried to develop more of some of the things that he does vocally and in terms of his production into our show. But that's really what it is. So I don't think it's a pure imitation per se, or impersonation, but a lot of elements of what he does, certainly.
I think I saw you in one of your earlier shows, because it would have been not long after a pandemic, and I saw you guys, and from the stage, I'm going, yeah, he's pulling off the whole vibe. He's getting the whole Billy Joel vibe. And I will say that the recent promo video I've seen and more recent stuff, I feel like either just because you've been singing this song so much, or because you've probably been watching Billy Joel to kind of go, okay, what does he do during the song when he's live? What is he doing? How can I get a mannerism? How can I get something that he does? Your voice is, I think, getting closer to him. I think you've gotten more dialed into his sound.
Yeah, thank you. That's evolving, and I think our show has evolved from our earliest shows, and that's, I think, the one I remember seeing you at. It was one of our earlier ones. The show has evolved and changed, and I know that I have. And there's some other tribute artists that I respect very much who have said similar things to me, and that, I mean, it means a lot to me. But it also says that I'm on the right track for what I'm trying, for what I want to do. But yeah, this is all. But it's all been time. I can't tell you how many hours I've put in to practicing and just trying to get the sound to where I want and where I'm comfortable going on the stage, and not worrying, am I going to screw this up? Right. Because that's they say the 10,000 hour thing. I mean, I've far surpassed that as a piano player, but in terms of doing Billy, I'm almost there as Billy with just the Billy stuff. And I prepare relentlessly. And I think it's starting to pay off, and I appreciate your comments. But yeah, that's what I think working hard has helped us do. Yeah.
It seems like this is a good spot. Let's kind of take a look at some of this video, and let's look at your current promo that you're using.
Sure.
So if you don't mind, we'll take a look. As they like to say on TV, let's go to the clip. Let's see Billy Joel, Adam Shapiro, and Billy Joel tribute.
All right, aren't you? Only the good die, only the good die. You got a nice white dress and party on your confirmation. Ooh, you got a brand new soul, and a cross of gold. But they didn't give you quite enough information. I don't need you to worry for me, 'cause I'm all right. I don't want you to tell me it's time to come home. I don't care what you say anymore, this is my life. Go ahead with your own life, leave me alone. Thank you so much.
Yeah, dude, vocally, I mean, some of those things are just, you're dead on.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, no, it's very impressed. And just to step aside from just you specifically, for those of you watching that are in tributes, that's also a good example of a good promo video. One, it's not long. And you probably learned this, or maybe you knew going in, but you'd be amazed how many promo videos I see that are 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes long and are 30, 40 seconds of one song. And I try to tell people, maybe you need to be of a certain age, but I'm like, do you remember the K-Tel albums, or the greatest hits albums that they always sell on TV for, $5.99 on records? And it was always about 10 seconds of any song. And it was just give you a quick version of the chorus so you knew which song you were talking about. You put together a really good video there. I think it comes in under 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And most agents don't look past the first 10 or 15 seconds. So there's no need to go much longer. Basically, what they're looking at is, do you look like the guy? Do you sound like the guy? And after that, they're kind of like, whatever. I'm sure you do all the hits, so that's all that matters. I've had agents tell me that specifically. They're like, dude, we don't go past 30 seconds. we want to know, do you look like them and do you sound like them? And it is I don't even know they even care so much that I want it to be 100% live. Some people are big on that. They're like, I need it to be live and no overdubs. And I don't know if you've dealt with any of that kind of stuff when you put together videos, or because that's part of what I like to talk about too with the artists.
Sure.
Is the nuts and bolts of how you brand yourself, how you marketed it, what work went into that. So if you want to speak to any of that.
So it's interesting. The 2-minute thing. Yeah, I've heard that univocally. Everybody, I mean, every agent I've talked to, they want it short and sweet, hit as many of the highlights as you can, because as artists, we want to get everything that we envision for our show. Like for me, it's like, how do I engage the audience? I want to get them involved singing and dancing because they know these songs. They know them better than we do. So, and how do we do that? The energy, the great musicianship, all that you can't, and you try to get that into a short package. Where I've heard mixed things is on the live piece.
Yeah.
And this was live audio. It wasn't live audio from one show.
Oh, I can tell yours was live, so don't take it that I thought you were doing any overdubbing or anything.
But it was specifically live audio because we had been told, or I'd been told by a number of people, not everybody says it, but a lot of people, and some people will be very explicit. If you submit something to an agent, we want it live. And so it's live audio, but it's, it's chopped up and things like that.
If I can maybe just clarify that, because I think you're right. I think what a lot of people will not be really good at saying is what they mean is like a typical, and I'm going to probably ruffle a feather here or two, a typical cover band, variety, corporate kind of band likes to do a lot of pre-produced video and promo. There's not an audience, or there's 5 people that are there that are supposed to be the audience. The band is very, very polished. The tracks are 100% recorded. It's them. I'm not saying it's not them. It's them, but then they're just lip syncing to the pre-recorded tracks. And they're creating their promo video on an enclosed stage with a very quality controlled situation. So I think that's where a lot of agents will say, we really want to see more of your live footage, and we want to hear you guys live. So what I mean by the overdub part is I don't mean you can't clean it up in something or whatever. You got something that works good, but your video needs to represent what you look and sound like live.
100%.
That's to me, I think, the most important thing. So
our first video that we did right before our first gig was coming out of COVID. It was all the pre-recorded stuff that we had done during all that audio. Right. So it was all studio. And that we used what we had at the time to start getting some, but as soon as we started getting some good gigs under our belt, you got to make the investment, and you got to hire some video crews. You got to hire people to edit things, unless you can do it yourself. And most of the stuff I do myself, but when it comes to shooting video, I can't play and sing and do that and run the video cameras and all of that.
So how did you market yourself? What did you do? What approaches did you take? Did you kind of just send stuff to agents? Did you send it to venues? How did you get off the ground?
So I was very intentional about branding. And it's interesting because we started with a different name. But it's funny, like we hadn't even played our first gig, and I got a cease and desist letter with the name. Yeah, there was apparently, because before I put the name out there, I had done all kinds of research, and apparently there was roughly at the same time we announced our first gig, there was another kind of a Broadway style show with the name that we were using at the time. It was called Uptown Boys.
I see. Okay, so you didn't get something from the Billy Joel organization. You got something from somebody else, entity saying,
some other entity. This is our, and they had just registered a trademark.
Gotcha.
Just like that. And thankfully this happened right at the beginning, so I was able to switch
how they get aware of you so fast that early on? That's impressive that you got your name out there that fast.
I literally had 2 gigs. So we started getting, 2 gigs, not even played, but booked. So website, Facebook, Instagram handles, all that stuff got changed. But luckily we started building that audience in advance. So I was again, I still am very mindful of how we brand. Hired a good graphic designer. Really did I invested money,
Right.
and you don't have to have $100,000 to do this, right? I know there are some big production companies and big tribute agents that have their own bands that throw a ton of money at new startups to get it going fast. And sure, that helps, but that's not everything. And I didn't have that kind of money to throw around, but so really focused on branding and really just hustling. And when I say hustling, and this is, I don't know, it's the New Yorker in me, I guess, but it's just to be honest, to be real, but to be assertive in terms of what I was looking for. I was looking to get booked, so I did a lot of research on who the agents were. I really tried to look at some of the other acts that were successful, and to try to do some of the things that they may have done, or seeing where are they playing, or is there an agent that they're using? And I met a lot of people, and I got to tell you, the tribute community is very tight, and I've made some great friends, and we're all helping each other. And what you're doing, I think, is part of that, Roger. And that has been so wonderful in terms of helping us along, because, let me introduce you to this person, or here's a venue that I think you should be playing at. I'm going to here's the guy's number. I've had people do that for us, and I've done that for others as well. So yeah, it's been very focused on branding, on trying to make as many connections as possible with the right people. But at the end of the day, it's, do you deliver? And so our first gigs were, we didn't make that much money. I was looking to take, I just wanted to start playing. And once we were able to start impressing upon people who were talent buyers or agents or whatever, that we could deliver a high quality tribute show, I think that's when we started taking off. And then also for me, it's really important to be ethical in how you conduct yourself as an artist and as a business person. And I see myself as a very ethical, straight up, we've all met musicians who are flaky, who like that. You've got to be, from my perspective, genuine, considerate, and fundamentally, I'm just grateful. And I think, I hope that comes across in my relationships with people, because that's really what it's all about. Just like in anything, everything's about relationships.
I think, kind of to the point we were talking about earlier, just being a little on the older side, things are approached from a more professional or a more mutually beneficial point of view. It's and like you said, I think a key thing to what you said is, I got to make sure that we're delivering. I got to make sure that we are giving them the product that works for them. And I think that's part of why tributes in general have become the go-to choice for venues, casinos, summer festivals. They're not booking just variety bands anymore as much. They're booking tributes, I think, one, because I think they said, well, we'd like to have Billy Joel. We think Billy Joel would be a good fit for our demographic for this town or this casino or this club. We think Queen would be a great one. We think, Rage Against the Machine is the right fit for where we play. So they're going to pick whatever the style is. But I think they are also seeing that tributes are being put together by people, one, that know that this isn't about me playing my music. This is me delivering something that somebody else has already created. So my job is to recreate that. And the way I can set myself apart from the other Billy Joels or the other Journeys or the other Queens is, can I be more professional? Can I be easier to work with? Can I be on time? Can I be the kind of person that not only did I give them what they asked for, but I gave them a little more than they thought they were going to get? So I think that, again, you went into it with that eyes wide open kind of thing, clear-eyed, and saw it as, I got to brand it, I got to market it, I got to present it, and then I have to deliver on everything that I said. So let's talk a little bit about the show itself. And I know you're saying it's evolved. All shows usually will evolve as you go. Billy Joel, I mean, you look up Billy Joel. I happen to work for a tribute band that 90 minutes to 2 hours is about all you can get for me. He didn't have the catalog. He didn't have the Huey Lewis didn't have the catalog that, you know, a lot of artists do.
Yeah.
Billy Joel, you could probably go 3+ hours and still hit songs that everybody's, before you're starting to dig to where people are like, I don't really know that one, or that's a pretty deep cut, or you're going to a B cut. Easily 2 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours. So what's a typical, or what is an ideal set time for you? What type of a show do you like to do?
I like to do the straight. I don't like breaks. Actually,
None of us do.
You know, I like the straight hour and 30 to hour 45, maybe a little bit longer, just depending on what the crowd is doing, because that's the typical time. And you hit the nail on the head in terms of, you know, I think one of the major challenges for a tribute band that is a tribute to an artist like Billy, or you take, you know, there's a bunch of Beatles tributes too, and they have a similar problem, probably even more so. But Billy Joel had 33 top 40 hits, and that's just the hits. But there's a lot of, you know, album tracks that he did that hardcore fans love. And in fact, if you look at his concerts,
there's fan favorites for sure that weren't necessarily radio hits,
like Vienna. Billy plays Vienna almost every show. And that's the thing. Here's something else I did, and I still do, is you go to, I think it's setlist.fm. You can pull up every set list for a particular artist that they ever did.
New York State of Mind was not like a big hit for him, but that is a song that is an absolute classic for him. And so I guess the question then is, with all of that music, how do you pare down your 95, 105, 100, or even your 120 minute? What do you decide to cut? How do you make those decisions? Do you work some stuff in and then go, okay, that worked for a while, but now it's not? Or how do you decide that?
Right. So, you know, we had a debate about whether we had a sort of a fixed set. I mean, it would be a lot easier, you know, from a production standpoint, if we played the same set every night. But that doesn't work for us for a couple of reasons. One is there's just so many songs, and if we're playing in the same area and people are coming to and we have a lot of repeat customers, and that is great. We love that, but they may not want to hear the same exact set every time we play. So the way that I think we do it is that we have a set of songs, a group of songs that are just cemented in our set list. Right. If we don't play Piano Man, if we don't play something like You May Be Right, stuff like that, it's and I know this even more now that we've done it, right? We've tested it. When in the set these songs work really well. Right. So the sort of the tempo, the cadence of the set is something that I work really hard on in trying to figure out what works with the audience. And so we have a group of songs that we rotate in and out. They're hits, some popular B tracks, but we don't play the same exact set every night, and we kind of want to offer that to our audiences, and that also for us keeps it fresh too. Sure. Right? I think that's super important. I mean, musically, is that we want to be sort of rotating some things in there, and so probably I would say about 65-70% of our set is fixed, and the rest of it can vary on for example, we'll do The Longest Time, right? That a cappella song. It's a great song, but we're not going to, it really depends. Are we playing a theater? Are we playing a club, right? If we're at the Belly Up, ballads don't work as well. I'll throw 1 or 2 ballads max on a club, but in a theater, you've got more time to do stuff like that. So
the venue, the clientele will kind of dictate some songs that are ads or drops. And if you're doing the 55 and over communities, Longest Time is a perfect way to go.
Exactly.
Those kind of things. But a Belly Up, a club, not necessarily the more soft ballads. Keep it a little more rock.
But the key in part of that is that we're not just playing for us. We have to be mindful of what the audience wants, right? Somebody asked me the other day, aren't you sick of playing Piano Man? And I said, well, it's not my favorite song that he ever wrote, but my gosh, the way that people react to that song is amazing. And I love that part. So if it's just about me, you're not going to be successful. You've got to figure out what is it that the audience really wants. But even despite all of this work that we put in to try to make the set list great, invariably after every show, there's at least one person that comes, oh man, I wish you would have played this, or I wish, and they all understand, they all know, they're great about it. I said, you know what, come see us again next time. I promise you I'll put on that set.
It's literally every show. There's always some song, and it's kind of like, well, it wasn't their top 20, but I love the song too, but it's a fan song, but it's like, I understand. I wish I could have, I just didn't, we ran out of time kind of thing. But so I think that, again, you're speaking to all the points that I think are important takeaways for everybody, which is you put thought into the set, you put thought into the audience that's going to be there. So that tweaks what songs you add. You obviously put thought into the arrangement of the songs show to show. Does it build? Does it ebb? Does it flow? Does it, so I think these are all really valuable, helpful things for people to be taking away from this. And it doesn't have to be a pop band. It doesn't have to be the 30 hits, top 40 band. Every band, even if you're doing a marginal or a niche kind of band, you still want to put thought into how you put your set together, how you arrange a show. I mean, I have costume changes. I don't know if you do anything like that, but I have some songs where I have to change outfits and stuff. So, you got to take all that stuff into account.
It's the production that I think we've been much more mindful of in the last 6 to 9 months than ever before. I mean, this is always something that we've been thinking about, but as we're growing our audiences, as we're playing some bigger places, it's the entirety of everything. It's the arrangements of it's the set list or what's in the set list. It's not only the music, but it's how you want to create a show. And that's really where we're trying to significantly improve what we're doing, because it's about an experience. It's not just about playing a song, stopping, everybody grabs a sip of water, you play the next song, boom, right? It's not that. It is a show. So what is the story that you're telling? What's the narrative across the show? That's why I'm very, it's not just the music, but it's what's the lighting like? Some bands use props and things like that. I'm thinking like Pink Floyd, right? But but I think all of that is important to consider, especially as you're starting to get more established. And I always worry about like selling tickets and making sure we put on a good show. But these days, I'm really trying to ramp up how we think about constantly improving not only musically, but the overall production value of the show. Right. And that's really, that's our 2024 goal, is to really ramp that up.
Well, I got to tell you, for somebody who wasn't a front man, you've really taken to that role in what it means, which is it's not about you, it's about the product that you're presenting, and it's about the show that you're presenting. So I really do appreciate all that you're doing. Nice. Once again, for everyone, this is Adam Shapiro. It's BillyNationTribute.com is where you're going to find him. On social media, everything is pretty much at Billy Nation Tribute. Mm-hmm. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or wherever you're at. I really appreciate it. Is there anything you wanted to talk about coming up in 24, or anything you kind of want to mention?
So 24 is going to be great. I mean, the next show we've got in 24 that's publicly announced is we're at the Belly Up Tavern in Solana Beach on the 2nd of February. We'll be headlining that show, and looking forward to that, and hope it's a great year. 2023 was fantastic for us. Great experiences. 2024, I'm confident will give us some really introduce us to some new audiences in new places around the world. We've got a show in Canada for the first time in 2024. super excited. So now we can say we're international. Is that
International
literally?
Billy Joel tribute? There you go.
But yeah, you know, I think I'm grateful for the tribute community and for the fans of the tribute world. And there's some hardcore tribute fans, as you know, Roger. I mean,
well, you're down in San
amazing.
Diego, right? You're in San Diego area. I lived in San Diego forever and ever. I'm just 5 minutes off the border of San Diego, a little bit north. But when I started this whole tribute thing almost 11 years ago, I kind of likened it to Comic-Con, which is huge in San Diego. I went, people that are in tributes are like people that go to Comic-Con. They take their tributes, especially Kiss tributes. They take their tribute very, very seriously. Put it this way, the ones that are at that highest level, I think, do take it that seriously. They spend the time refining the show, retweaking it, never being complacent, never being comfortable, always saying, how can I do it? Oh, we're going back to that same venue again that we did last year. I got to give them a little something different. I can't just do that same show. I know you put thought into that. I appreciate what you do. You are helping to keep the tribute world talent level at the highest level. So Adam, it's great to know you, buddy. I appreciate all that you're doing. Once again, it's BillyNationTribute.com. You see it there on the screen. At Billy Nation Tribute is all the social media stuff. So Adam, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Roger.
it, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Best of luck in 24. We got a great week, and we will talk to you again soon.
Okay. Thank you, Roger. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, everybody, for watching. That'll do it for this episode. We'll see you next time. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, tell your friends. It's the Ultimate Tribute Band Podcast. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.